All right, it is in the books. The first practice of this 2023 journey for the 49ers. So I present to you 49ers intel from day one. Going to have one of these after every single practice of this 2023 training camp. Who knows? Maybe I'll even continue it into the regular season. But we have a lot to go over. Maybe we have some highlights to play. The 49ers actually just posted this. So why don't we go ahead and walk through the 49ers posted highlights? I can tell you what's going on in each clip. There's Trey Lance to Brandon Aiyuk earlier on. Nice pass break up there on the attempt to Jordan Willis. This was the play of practice. I know it's in highlight reel format. Talanoa Hufanga, Taylor Hawkins, Fred Warner, a lot of PBUs. This is a monstrous defense. But then that big catch from Brandon Aiyuk climbing the ladder against Deommodore Lenoir. And then later we saw Brandon Aiyuk in 7-on-7 work on a little slant pattern. So that is a sizzle reel from camp today. But I will tell you that this play right here, I could freeze frame it, maybe even rewind a little bit. This play right here was money. Sam Darnold went deep, as you can see Darnold throwing there. Nice pass. He even looked off Talanoa Hufanga before throwing it, but it was the fastest I had ever seen Talanoa move. You could see that Danny Gray in the red jersey has Ambry Thomas in the white jersey at right beaten, but Hufanga came in there to knock the ball away. So best play of day one. That catch right after that you see from Ty Davis Price, that was courtesy Trey Lance. That was his longest throw of the day. That was actually Trey Lance's first completion of the day. Ty Davis Price out of the backfield. See Deommodore Lenoir chasing him. Nice pass breakup. Taylor Hawkins against Braden Willis. This right here, and I know we only have limited time, this right here is Fred Warner knocking away what I thought was a perfectly feathered pass. From Trey Lance to Deebo Samuel with some bracket coverage. Warner was underneath about 20 yards downfield, but Fred's a stud. He's the best in the game. Knocked away the pass that almost beat a blitz. And this is where Trey Lance was able to actually beat a blitz to Brandon Aiyuk. 49ers came in hot with the DB blitz. I'll talk a little bit more about those in a second. Steve Wilks dialed up a couple of those. Then Deommodore Lenoir made that catch. Deommodore Lenoir was on the coverage as Brandon Aiyuk made that catch, and Aiyuk then made some more plays later on. Brandon Aiyuk is essentially unstoppable at these practices. That's going to be the first takeaway. Brandon Aiyuk, dominant again. This guy, I mean, last year we saw it coming with Brandon Aiyuk in training camp, right? It was impossible to cover him. Well, I think a little bit more of the same this year. It's only one practice in, but he's looking, I think, even a little stronger than last year. He's looking a little bit more confident than last year. And why wouldn't you look confident coming off a 1,000-plus receiving yard season? Aiyuk works in tandem with Deebo Samuel, and we can report this. Skinny Deebo is back. This is from Matt Barrow's article up on The Athletic. He handled our daily coverage today. His headline, Deebo Samuel looks sleek while Brandon Aiyuk soars on day one. So that corroborates what I was saying about Brandon Aiyuk. Well, Deebo Samuel, he's down to the weight the 49ers want him at. We think that's around 220 pounds. We do know that maybe we could start calling it odd year Deebo, because go through his career progression, and Deebo Samuel spoke today after practice. He said this is the best shape that he's been in since 2019. Well, that was an odd year. That was his rookie season coming out of South Carolina. 49ers ran Deebo to death before that 2019 season. He would run at 6 a.m. with Wes Welker. Then he would run after practice. Richard Sherman was joking about it with Brandon Aiyuk on Sherman's podcast the other day. They made sure that Deebo, after all the pre-draft distractions, got in shape in 2019, and he delivered a really good rookie season as a direct result. 2020, Deebo Samuel broke his foot while the 49ers were training away from the facility in Nashville. When he broke his foot, Deebo Samuel was no longer able to work out, right? You can't run when your foot is broken. At least wasn't able to work out in a way that could keep him in shape. And because of that, injuries like hamstring strains and all that good stuff, all that bad stuff, I guess I should say, followed Deebo Samuel around for the entirety of the 2020 season. It was a bad year. He didn't play many games. He had a flash in the pan early on against the Rams at home at an empty Levi's Stadium. That was the season without fans at home games, but it wasn't a good year. It was an even year. It wasn't a good year for Deebo Samuel. Then there was 2021. All the talk inside the 49ers building amongst coaches, amongst players during training camp of 21 was that it was skinny Deebo. Deebo had cut a lot of weight from 2020 when he wasn't in great shape. And skinny Deebo took camp by storm in 2021, and then he took the league by storm in 2021. If you notice the pattern here, 2019, odd year, 2021, odd year. Then we moved to 2022, even year, and that was the year of drama, right? Deebo Samuel, at least through his agent, requested a trade from the 49ers as he was seeking the contract extension. Then he held in during training camp, or at least for the first 6 days of it. Finally signed the contract extension, but later admitted that that whole process was a distraction that prevented him from getting into good shape. So Deebo didn't have a great year in 2022. It was better than 2020, and there were flashes in the pan against the Rams because Deebo Samuel owns the Rams. He always dominates against the Rams, but it was still a far cry from the monstrous 2021. So 2019 and 2021, odd years. Deebo Samuel dominant in both years. 2020, 2022, even years. Deebo Samuel not as good in those seasons. 2023 is an odd year, and Kyle Shanahan is telling us about how many shirtless pictures Deebo Samuel is sending him. And we got to see Deebo on the field in person for the first time this training camp, and he did look spry. He did look sleek, as Matt Barrows writes. So make sure to check out Matt's article, the daily coverage of the 49ers, with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk, the headliners. So everybody wants to talk about the quarterback position. I am keeping quarterback stats again. 49ers QBs at 2023 training camp. It's on my Twitter. You can go to Lombardi himself. You could find the link. I did this last year throughout all of camp, and I kept the template for this year, but as you could tell, the template is empty. But it is a complete war zone. It's a mess on the internet. Everybody's got different stats because they're not tracking things as closely as they should. I'll put it out here. I was the one that started tracking this a few years ago, and then we had a lot of people start copying the practice, and people started tracking 7-on-7 stats. It's like, why are you tracking flag football? What's that going to do to help our evaluation of the 49ers? The way to properly chart an NFL training camp is to track what happens in 11-on-11 and to not be overly reliant on numbers. Just telling you the completions and the attempts would be a disservice because there's so much context that's missing from only giving that information. So my goal with this piece right here is, and has been and continues to be, to give you the appropriate context behind quarterback performances at 49ers training camp. So I have notes about what the QBs did in the far right column. I, of course, have the completions, attempts, and the interceptions. And then I'm going to be subdividing this into splits as we go on. So when the 49ers do a move the ball period, which means the chains move alongside the offense and it's more closely resemblant of a game, I'm going to divide up those splits. We know from prior experience that the way that these numbers end up shaking out is correlated to performance in the regular season, especially the move the ball periods. When the 49ers start simulating games in practice, that performance from the quarterbacks tends to carry over into actual games in the stadium. Case in point was 2021 when I charted all of the throws from Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, but I also broke it up down into move the ball periods, which more closely simulated games. And Lance's performance fell way off during the move the ball periods, and Jimmy Garoppolo's got better. Hence, Jimmy Garoppolo was the more efficient quarterback. Obviously, the 49ers were planning on starting him, but what that did is it underscored where Trey had to improve. So we're not going to get to move the ball until maybe a week from now at training camp. But once we do get to move the ball, you could be sure that I'm going to split those stats on this sheet. So make sure to check it out. Anyway, today's stats, if you want to know, and I'm going to put context on them, they're here. Trey Lance was 4 for 5. Sam Darnold was 2 for 4. Brandon Allen was 0 for 3. Those of you wondering where Brock Purdy was, he's going to be the starting quarterback with the QB1 tomorrow. It was a scheduled day of rest for Brock Purdy on day 1 of camp because he had thrown 2 consecutive days prior to it. So tomorrow, we're going to see Brock Purdy take over as the first-team quarterback. Today, we saw Trey Lance and Sam Darnold split those duties, with Trey Lance getting the majority of them. Trey was sharp today. He was good today. I didn't think Sam Darnold was bad either. You saw the nice throw and the deep pass from Sam Darnold to Brandon. That wasn't too Brandon. Sam Darnold did hit Brandon Aiyuk on a bigger gainer. That was downfield, but the deep pass from Darnold, that was a nice one to Danny Gray, was the one that was broken up to Talanoa Hufanga, and that's the one that I showed you a little bit earlier. And Brandon Allen, well, he didn't get any first-team snaps, and he threw 3 incompletions, so it's whatever. You move on to the next day. But in terms of what we can and can't evaluate, it's imperative to keep this all into perspective. People have a food fight online every single time I just post a couple quarterback stats and mention who's doing well, who did what, a couple highlights. People think that one practice is going to determine the rest of the future of the 49ers quarterback position. But no, this is just one practice in shorts. The pads don't even come on until Monday. And Kyle Shanahan even emphasized after practice, this is easy for the quarterbacks. All they have to do is show me they didn't get worse over the 40 days away from the team facility prior to training camp. And Shanahan was satisfied with that. He said, these guys didn't get worse. Now I'm going to put a little bit more on their plate Thursday, then a little bit more Friday, then a day off Saturday, a little bit more on Sunday. Pads come on Monday. We'll see how all the quarterbacks handle it. But I can speak as to how Trey Lance handled his 5 throws today. And I was impressed with Trey Lance's 5 throws today because it's clear that he's got very, very good arm strength, especially when he starts throwing to the sideline. And there were a couple throws to the sideline that were particularly impressive. One, you saw at least part of it on tape. That was when Brandon Aiyuk wrestled the football away from Deommodore Lenoir for a good catch. That was Lance throwing to beat a Steve Wilks blitz, and it led to some trash talking. Aiyuk and Lenoir getting into each other's face after the play. More on that in a little bit. But Steve Wilks is going to blitz. This is the 49ers' new defensive coordinator. I've talked about this a lot. He came over from Carolina. His previous DC job was in Cleveland, 2019. At least his previous NFL DC job was there. And Steve Wilks' blitz rate was near 30%. It was in the 20%, right? It was in that range. And the 49ers, they haven't seen anything close to that in terms of blitz rate from either Robert Saleh, who ranked and still ranks with the Jets near the bottom of the NFL in terms of blitz rate, and with DeMeco Ryans, who was only at about 13 or 14% for the 49ers. So at 28 or 29% a couple of years ago with the Cleveland Browns, Steve Wilks has already signified that he's going to be bringing more heat with the 49ers. And Kyle Shanahan has talked about it. Kyle Shanahan is excited about it. And in today's practice, we saw 2 aggressive DB blitzes and very limited opportunities from the 49ers defense. One time, Talanoa Hufanga came around the edge, and the other time, Isaiah Oliver tried to sneak in from his nickel back position. Both times, they got pretty near Trey Lance. Both times, I think they at least sped up Trey Lance's clock, hurried the throw. The reason I bring up these blitzes is because on both of them, Trey Lance showcased his arm strength to try to defeat the pressure. The first time, unfortunately, it didn't work out. He went on that pass to Deebo Samuel that Fred Warner broke up. I showed you the Fred Warner pass breakup. It was a hell of a play. So the 49ers defense essentially put Trey Lance into position to have to make a spectacular throw to defeat the blitz and pick up the big gainer. And Trey Lance ended up making a nice throw, but it wasn't spectacular. So it was broken up by Fred Warner. The second time on the Isaiah Oliver blitz, Trey Lance had to make another great play because he had a guy right down his neck. And Trey did make a great play, and so did Brandon Aiyuk on the other end. On both of those plays, I thought Trey Lance's arm strength was on display, more so on the completion where he really had to zip it out toward the sideline, then on the pass that he had to feather to Deebo Samuel that Fred Warner broke up. But you're going to need both. You're going to need some muscle behind the throws, and you're going to need some touch. And I thought that Trey Lance did an adequate job showing both of those skills today. So again, Trey, what 4 or 5? Sam Darnold, 2 of 4. Darnold seemed to trip over one of his linemen, get sacked. Maybe he got hit. I don't know what happened, but it was just kind of like a what the heck kind of play. One obvious drop for Sam Darnold in the 2 of 4 performance. I think it was Jordan Mason over the middle, wasn't able to hang on to a football. And then there was the pass breakup from Talanoa Hufanga, which I thought was the nicest play of practice. Those were the 2 Darnold incompletions. I already mentioned that Brandon Allen went 0 for 3. I think that was Talanoa Hufanga's highest speed ever on the play that I showed earlier that I'm going to be talking about a little bit more right now. Single high safety look, 49ers went deep. It's Sam Darnold's job to look off the safety in such a situation. And, when Kyle Shanahan was asked about this play after practice, he said that he thought that the safety was properly looked off. This is what Kyle Shanahan said about the play. That was a hell of a play because I thought Danny beat the corner on it. The corner was Ambry Thomas. Kyle's right. I'm curious to see the film, how he got over there so fast, because I was told that Sam Darnold looked him off pretty good, but he got there fast, so that was an impressive play. And I'm curious to see how it all unfolded. So I am curious to talk to Kyle Shanahan when I get the chance after he has watched this film, which I'm sure by this point he's watched it, because the talk about Talanoa Hufanga coming out of college was that, he's a little slow for the NFL, 4.6 or 4.7 40. He might be a good contact player. He might be good near the box, but he's going to struggle when he has to sprint over the top in wide open spaces. Well, lo and behold, Sam Darnold threw a nice deep ball today. He even looked Talanoa Hufanga off. The 49ers' fastest wide receiver was sprinting down the sideline. He was open. He had beaten Ambry Thomas. But guess who made up all that ground from center field to come over and make a nice pass breakup, a physical pass breakup? Talanoa Hufanga, the guy that was supposed to be too slow for this job coming out of USC in 2021. So that just goes to show you 40 speed doesn't tell a whole lot of the story. It's about instincts. It's about game speed. And if you could feel where a play is coming, even if you get looked off by the quarterback, even if his eyes tell you to break the opposite way first, if you have that instinct that football is going to be going to the direction where you think it's going to be going, then you're going to be able to get a step or two of a head start in that direction. And even if your straight line speed when you're testing at the combine isn't great, well, all of a sudden you might play like a 4.3 guy, even though you ran a 4.6. It's smarts, it's playbook knowledge, playbook study, opponent study, and instincts. Those things combine to make players much faster than their tested time. Players like Talanoa Hufanga, at least, can lay claim to that. So I thought that was the fastest he had ever moved on a football field, at least as far as I had seen today. And Kyle Shanahan was also very impressed. Trash talking ramping up at 49ers practice. Talanoa puffed out his chest after that play at Danny Gray. That was a little bit of the shit talking that we saw. We saw two instances of it. Danny Gray and Talanoa Hufanga going after it, not fighting, but really chest to chest after a play. You could tell there were no pleasantries exchanged in that dialogue between the two. And then there was the Brandon Aiyuk, Deommodore Lenoir play. On one of those plays, the offense got the better of the defense. That was Aiyuk over Lenoir. On the other one of those plays, the defense got the better of the offense. That was Talanoa Hufanga over Danny Gray. I've never seen a first day of 49ers camp with guys puffing their chests out at each other. This was the first time in 7 years that I had seen that. I had also never seen guys talking some smack on social media between offense and defense before camp even started. But this year was the first time I'd seen that. I did see Fred Warner fight Brandon Aiyuk last year. I think it was Brandon Aiyuk who tried to instigate the fight. Brandon Aiyuk at least was the one that squared up first, but Fred Warner was prodding him, and that was after pads came on. And that's something that the 49ers will tell you. They're happy that they've got that kind of fire, that they've got that kind of fight in them. The guys care. The guys are getting into that competitive mindset. They enjoyed that last year. So is it going to happen again? Are we going to see, a melee again here in 2023? Well, I'll tell you what, the great 49ers teams of the 80s fought in practice. The 94 team, I wrote a lot about this, fought in practice, bar none. William Floyd, Gary Plummer, all those guys. I mean, they were on edge because it was a competitive environment. I don't know if this 49ers team is going to fight in practice, but I know this 49ers team has a very competitive vibe around it. Just like you would expect from a roster that is as loaded as this one, where it is a cutthroat fight for certain jobs, and as you would expect from a team that's been to 3 of the past 4 NFC championship games, but has come up just short of winning a single Lombardi trophy. There's hunger in the 49ers locker room. It's very clear. There are also a lot of good players, and they're all competing right now out on that practice field. So the trash talking, that's part of it. To me, that was the theme of today. I'm watching practice today, and I'm like, ooh, this is good. This is good. These guys are edgy, and it's only day 1. They're still in shorts. The pads don't come on until Monday. It's so important that this kind of competition happens from spot 1 to spot 90 on the roster, because ultimately the 49ers are going to build a 53-man roster with a 16-man practice squad, which means a 69-man roster. And as George Kittle said, every single one of the football players on that roster is going to be important and necessary to the 49ers' ultimate chances of success. Have a listen to George Kittle speaking after today's practice.
After the 53 cut, it's like 60, 69, right? I need all those guys. Like, I mean, I don't care if you're on practice squad. I don't care if you're a rookie. I don't care if you're the R5 on kickoff. Like, I need every single person. I'm very aware of that. We encourage, I mean, me and Fred stand here in front of the rookies right before you go to the 40 days away at the OTAs, and we're very straight with them. Like, look, some of you are going to be here, some of you aren't. The guys that are going to be here are going to participate. They're going to help us win. Like, I can't win without you guys. We can't win with 30 good guys and 20 bad players. Like, I need 69 really good football players that want to win. They want to bring it every single day. Intent, effort. Like, that's all I really give a shit about. And so if they want to bring it, they have the goals, the high standards. That's what we want. And it's really fun because I think we have a great roster, like I said. We have a lot of guys who want to be on this team. And so the battles throughout camp are going to be really fun to watch. And hopefully by the time we get to the 53 plus the 15, 16 practice squad guys, we have a very great roster that has an ability to win and go out and get things done.
There we go. George Kittle talking about how important the battles up and down the roster will be, because the 49ers have a good roster. They've got talent, but they want to make sure that they turn this into a great roster that could win a Super Bowl. So today was just the beginning of that effort in training camp. They've got to pare it down to that 69-man roster, and there are going to be a lot of chest-to-chest confrontations. There might be some shoving. Who knows? There might be a punch thrown. I don't know. I just want to see a competitive roster whenever I go out there and evaluate a football team. And I think that I saw that competition. I saw that fire with the 49ers on day one. First play, or the first throw from Trey Lance today in 11-on-11 practice, was a nice connection with Ty Davis-Price. It was the longest gain of the day on a Trey Lance throw. And, you know, Christian McCaffrey took today off. The 49ers are also giving him a bit of a pitch count just so he stays fresh. And he had been active the past 2 days before the 49ers started practicing. So today they eased off the workload on Christian McCaffrey. And that gave Jordan Mason, that gave Ty Davis-Price, that gave Elijah Mitchell an opportunity to deliver, and to deliver in the Christian McCaffrey role, which means not just running the football, running routes out of the backfield and catching the football. And all three of those backs made catches out of the backfield. Ty Davis-Price had the longest reception. Jordan Mason hauled in a nice swing pass in stride, didn't skip a beat, scampered down the sideline for a healthy gain. And Elijah Mitchell also had a catch and run out of the backfield. So that's important for the 49ers, because you need to be able to give Christian McCaffrey a breather. He can't be the only dual threat running back. If all of these running backs can threaten defenses in multiple ways, the 49ers will be better for it. And today we saw a good example of that. The upcoming schedule for the 49ers, pads come on Monday, so there's still a lot more to go. I think we're probably going to see Brock Purdy for several straight practices in the QB1 role now. And here's why. The 49ers practice Thursday. That's tomorrow. Obviously, Purdy's coming off a rest day Wednesday, so that will be day one of 2 consecutive days that the 49ers are scheduling him to practice. So day 2 of 2 consecutive days will obviously be Friday. Then the 49ers have a day off, team-wide day off on Saturday. So that means it coincides with Brock Purdy's own day off, scheduled day off on Saturday, because it would be the third day in the rotation. So that means that there won't be a turn there that Brock Purdy skips at practice. They come back on Sunday, the 49ers do, and Brock Purdy will be coming off the rest day, so I think he'll be the starting quarterback or the first-string quarterback again on Sunday. And then his second day in the rotation will be Monday, and that is day 5 of camp, and that's when pads come on. So I believe that Brock Purdy will be QB1 for the next 4 practices for the 49ers. And then he's going to take a seat on Tuesday. You'll see the split between Trey Lance and Sam Darnold again. And then next, he'll take a rest on Tuesday, and then Wednesday is going to be the off day, and then you'll see Purdy return Thursday and Friday of next week. So that's how the rotation is going to work. That's just my guess as to how the next few days are going to go. All right, so this has been 49ers Intel Day 1. Let's open it up to 49ers Q&A. I wish I had some water. I wish I got some water. That was not very smart of me entering this show, but we'll open it up to the Q&A. and let's talk. I want questions. That's what I'm going to post up there. Post the questions. If you don't have a question, hit the subscribe button. Those are the rules right now. Can go through some of my Twitter feed from today because we did cover a lot of ground on there. Actually, maybe I do go back to that. Yeah, Deebo Samuel does believe he's a little bit faster, that slimmer frame. And I think the 49ers GPS readings agree with him. In 2021, they definitely did. And today, Deebo said that he is moving a little bit better. Willis and Latu. I thought we're good out there today. Latu made a catch. Willis, there was a pass breakup. I think it was from Taylor Hawkins against Braden Willis. I mean, George Kittle said it the best, though. This is the first practice for these rookies. George Kittle, and I have an article coming out about this tomorrow morning. George, when he was a rookie, this is his 7th camp. So when he was a rookie back in 2017, he said day one, he was out in the Pacific Ocean holding on for dear life to a raft. I mean, he was not only swimming, he was completely overwhelmed. And he said that the 49ers structure of implementing the offense has grown more efficient over the years, as you would expect out of a good organization, right? You get better at doing things over time. So he said it's a lot easier now for Braden Willis and Cameron Latu to be integrated into the system. And maybe Kittle needs to give himself some credit because George Kittle is one of their teachers out on the field. And he said that it was a good first day for them. But as far as tight ends go, so much of their job is physical, pushing guys around, run blocking, even pass blocking, right? Yards after the catch. Without pads on, it's going to be hard to gauge any of that. So maybe we should hold off on our tight end evaluations until next Monday. And I think that preseason will be big for some of these rookie tight ends because that's when you can finally go yards after the catch. The 49ers do not tackle fully to the ground at their training camp practices. Is Darnold going to challenge Trey Lance as far as running the ball? Well, I don't think that you challenge another quarterback with a specific skill set. I think you challenge another quarterback with your overall skill set, but I get what you're asking. You're saying, can Darnold move as well? We did the film review on Sam Darnold. I think it was the game against Seattle last year where he had a couple big plays with his legs for Carolina. So yes, Darnold can move. He is physically gifted. Is he as fast as Trey Lance? No, I don't think so. But today, Trey had a 15 to 20 yard run where he escaped the pocket, outran the defense. No signs of that ankle injury. I mean, he shattered that ankle less than a year ago. Trey looked fully healthy on his run outside of the pocket today. So Trey is fast. I know Darnold is a decent athlete. There's a reason why he went number 3 overall. I think it's probably more along Trey Lance's skill set to run than it is Sam Darnold's to run, but both of these guys can move, and both of these guys are going to be asked to move to be as efficient as they possibly can be. I mean, Jair Brown has looked like he's belonged since OTAs. He had like 4 or 5 interceptions in OTAs. So I think he belongs. I think the 49ers are already planning 3rd safety reps for him. How much do you think Bosa's contract will be backloaded to make room in this year's and next year's cap? Well, we do know that I have wrote what Nick Bosa's contract might look like, and I think it's a good time to open that up because I can show you exactly how when I structured Nick Bosa's contract, because I had the chance to do so, at least pretend to do so, I obviously did backload it. And this is something that I think would work within the 49ers cap situation, but maybe they're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive with it. We'll see. Anyway, the backloading, to answer your question, the cap hits on the very right. So my deal for Nick Bosa, which was a mega deal, which broke Aaron Donald's record for NFL defensive players at a $10 million cap hit this season, which actually saves the 49ers $8 million for 2023, gives them more short-term flexibility. If the 49ers don't use it, they can carry that space over to 2024. I see a potential concern with my contract for Nick Bosa because the cap hit balloons from $10 million to $36 million in the next year. And the 49ers are short on space in 2024. As you can see, I recommended the 49ers operate a double bonus structure. So you spread the bonuses out against the cap like an accordion. First, you give him a $40 million signing bonus, and then in the second year, you give him a $10 million option bonus. That still hasn't spread out the cap hit enough for 2024, though. So what the 49ers can do is they can do what Jalen Hurts and the Eagles did, and that's add a third guaranteed roster bonus that doesn't kick in until 2025. And if the 49ers do that, Bosa is going to get more fully guaranteed money, but you're also going to be able to tack off some of this base salary in 2024 and maybe lower his cap hit down to about 20 million for 2024, 16 million lower than the one that I have proposed here. And that could be huge because the 49ers are in a tight cap situation for 2024. Worried about McKivitz. I don't know if he's the long-term answer at right tackle either, but the 49ers need him to be at least a short-term answer at right tackle. They hope that he's going to be a better pass protector than Mike McGlinchey. Let's not act like Mike McGlinchey was a world beater in pass protection. He was a great run blocker, but they had their issues with him in pass blocking. So maybe McKivitz does give the 49ers a step up in that regard. That's what they're counting on. They believe in him, right? They've developed him since 2020. They saw a very good play in a very limited sample last year. And they believe that when they cut him and re-signed him to the practice squad in 2021, start of that season, the 49ers believe they lit a fire under Colton McKivitz. I'll tell you one thing about this guy at right tackle. Trent Williams really respects him. Trent Williams believes that Trent shouldn't have played on a high ankle sprain in retrospect in that NFC Championship game against the Rams because he thinks that in retrospect, Colton McKivitz would have given the 49ers a better chance to win. And if Trent is saying nice stuff about you, I think Trent knows a thing or two about offensive line play. So I agree. Colton McKivitz is the one variable that you worry about on this 49ers offensive line because it's the biggest unknown. But again, he's not replacing a great pass blocking right tackle in Mike McGlinchey. And the 49ers have a lot of data now from behind the scenes on Colton McKivitz that makes them think that he's going to be doing a good job for them. As a bonus, McKivitz is a cap hit of only $1.5 million this year. So if he works out for the 49ers, that's going to be cost efficiency for this team. That's how you build a really strong roster with a lot of superstars that are making a lot of money. You get a good right tackle who's making only $1.5 million. You save money here so you could spend it elsewhere. I thought Javon Hargrave, he always looks thick in a good way. I mean, Javon Hargrave, the lower body is strong with this guy. He wears the number 98. He's explosive. They don't have pads on yet, so I can't tell you much about his play because until the offensive linemen can protect themselves against somebody like Javon Hargrave, it's not very fair. But I watched him in individual drills, and he's coming off the ball well. So Hargrave, the 30-year-old Hargrave, I think is going to be fine for the 49ers. Yeah, I think that Purdy just doesn't want to expend too much energy with that elbow as he wants to just make sure that that recovery stays full. Right now, he's 100% recovered, but he's just easing back into things, doesn't want to throw for 3 straight days, but he could be on the field for other activities. And tomorrow, he's going to put on the full uniform and be the 49ers' top quarterback. He is their top quarterback even on the days that he doesn't participate, but tomorrow, it will be reflected in how the 49ers operate practice. No, there's no indication who's higher on the depth chart, especially these skill positions. What they do, the depth chart is apparent along the lines, especially the offensive line. You could tell, okay, Spencer Burford last year was first team offensive line at right guard from the very start. And you said, okay, he's probably going to start. But what they do, besides the lines, which are complete fixtures, the 49ers rotate players through the other positions, right? So second team guys get to play with the first team line. First team guys get to play with the second team line. This year, even the quarterbacks are going to be rotated through a little bit, right? With Brock Purdy not being available for every single practice. So it's really hard to fully glean how that is going to shake out in terms of the depth chart. Nothing new to report on the Bosa talks. I just shared my prediction right here. as to what this deal might look like. So we can go back and look at this once Bosa does sign. 49ers don't seem worried about it. Eric Armstead says he's been talking to Bosa every day or very frequently, and he is not worried. He thinks the 49ers have a very solid track record of getting these deals done, and he thinks that track record is going to come into play as they finalize this deal with Nick Bosa. Well, there really is no deadline day for Nick Bosa, right? I mean, he could sit out the whole year. I don't think the 49ers want that. I don't think Nick Bosa wants that. I think if you want to set a harder line in the sand, it's week 1 because you don't want Bosa to start missing games. But then you can move that line up a little bit because you want Bosa to show up to practice and be at the team facility a little bit in advance of week 1, right? So the deadline is right now as we speak. It's just not like this hard deadline, though. It's a deadline that tends to produce action because people's feet are now being held to the fire. Deebo Samuel, for example, he was doing a similar thing as Nick Bosa, but he was holding in because there were different fine rules in place for Deebo Samuel at a different spot of his contract. He was holding in last year. Deebo didn't sign his contract until day 6 of training camp. So he was back out on the second day of pads at training camp. Might Bosa follow the same schedule? If he does, well, then we won't see Nick Bosa until next week. So I think it's anybody's guess as of right now, but there is no hard deadline. These are softer deadlines that let's not call it a soft deadline. Let's call it a general deadline. And these general deadlines have in the past created action. They have spurred along action. The 49ers did, to give everybody an update today, they did put Bosa officially on the reserve did not report list, which opened up a roster spot for the 49ers. If I could show you the roster update for this football team. Go to that 90-man depth chart. Open this up and stretch it across the screen to illustrate who the 49ers signed. Okay, here we go. Boom. Okay, so Bosa no longer counts against the 90-man. I should probably shade his name on here. Quantrez Knight's no longer hurt, by the way. Neither is Brock Purdy, so I can reset both of these tags. But the 49ers brought in a new linebacker, Kiava Tizino. San Diego State product, was in the USFL, one of the best defensive players in the USFL from this past season. Played for the Pittsburgh Maulers. So the 49ers worked out a few linebackers, and with the extra spot opened up by Nick Bosa's move to the reserve list due to not reporting to camp, the 49ers brought in Kiava Tizino. Notice Terrence Mitchell, another player they've added here in the past couple of days, the cornerback out of Oregon, and that is the 49ers 90-man roster. Good question. Why wasn't Jake Moody kicking today? Same thing. They're keeping his leg fresh. So it's a kick count, not a pitch count, but a kick count. So he's not hurt, but they don't want him to kick 3 days in a row because in college, you don't kick all that much. So in the NFL, you got to build your leg strength up. So 2 days of kicking for Jake Moody the past 2 days. Today was off. Tomorrow we'll see him. Zane Gonzalez was 3 of 4 on his field goals today, and he missed once from 48 yards. Do I think that whoever is quarterback 3 will be on the 53-man roster of the practice squad? I think QB3 will be on the roster, and here's why. The third quarterback rule allows teams to have a third quarterback dressed on game days without counting against the 55-man roster. It's a 55, not a 53-man roster on Sundays because of the 2 practice squad call-ups. But the only way that third QB doesn't count against the roster is if he's actually on the 53-man during the week. He can't be a practice squad call-up. So I think that the 49ers and other NFL teams are incentivized to have a third quarterback on their 53-man roster. And I think the 49ers will probably have 3 on their 53 and 1 on the practice squad. The trick with the practice squad is if Brandon Allen is the odd man out, he was the number 2 last year in Cincinnati to Joe Burrow. Is he going to be willing to take a massive pay cut to be a practice squad quarterback? Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. Probably good night if that happens. Say goodbye to Brandon Allen. He probably wouldn't be with the team anymore. But Brandon Allen is better than a practice squad quarterback. So the 49ers took a little bit of I don't want to call it a gamble, but they took a bigger swing at the QB position when instead of signing an undrafted free agent for that fourth spot, they signed Brandon Allen just in case Brock Purdy wouldn't be back until a couple weeks into training camp. But lo and behold, Brock Purdy is back before training camp even starts. And that means that the 49ers now have 4 quarterbacks and a real logjam here through training camp, which they can handle by divvying up the quarterback responsibility, giving Purdy every third day off. But how they handle it at the roster cut down will be even more interesting. Make sure to smash that like button. I'm doing these shows without water. So smash the like, smash the, what do you call it? The subscribe button. That would be nice too. 49ers posted this up on their website today. A quick little highlight reel of how the day went. Brandon Aiyuk, early drills. There's the pass breakup against Braden Willis, the rookie tight end. There's the play of practice. Talanoa Hufanga, Ty Davis Price. Pass from Trey Lance. Taylor Hawkins out of San Diego State, the PBU. Fred Warner, the PBU. And there's Aiyuk against Diamador Lenore. Aiyuk again. 49ers at practice today. Opened it up with a bang. Great weather in Santa Clara. 80 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. I got some color. Always do out at training camp. Make sure you bring your hat. Make sure you bring your sunscreen. Lombardi water break? Is that what we're going to do? All right. We'll do a Lombardi water break. Why don't I put Lombardi is getting water? He'll be right back. All right, I'm going to add the banner in, and I'll be back in just a little bit. All right, I'm back. I have the water. I could grab it here to prove it as soon as I get it. Then I could turn on the camera. And I am back. And we got to get that mic situated. Am I in the middle? Yeah, there we are. It's all good. Oh, here's the water. I am back. So let's get back to the questions, shall we? I think it was a pretty well-timed water break. 49ers are happy with Drake Jackson, by the way. Kyle Shanahan talked about him today. Another player that Kyle Shanahan was really happy about today was Javon Kinlaw. He said that Kinlaw, he pointed out it's been close to a year now since he last had a setback. Kinlaw looks even bigger if that's possible. He's exploding off the football. It's all about health for him. Because if he has health, then he has a chance to get reps. And if he has a chance to get reps, he has a chance to get better. So Javon Kinlaw, Shanahan made the point that this guy plays enough football. He's not going to be a bad player because he's just so physically gifted. He's such a specimen. So Kinlaw, Jackson, 49ers happy with both of those defensive linemen. Jackson, I guess, stayed at the facility over the 40 days in June and into July at a training camp. He's been taking the offseason challenge really, really seriously. They do not have a camp leg in place of Mitch Wishnowsky. They are using the jugs machine to punt. And today they didn't do any punts. So tomorrow, I think that the 49ers will probably have that jugs machine to shoot the balls up into the air to practice their punt returns. Mike points out that a breakout from Javon Kinlaw might mean a comp pick for the 49ers. No reason to trade him. The value's not high after all the injuries he's dealt with. He's guaranteed all the money that he's making right now, so there's no reason to cut Javon Kinlaw. You might as well just try to scrounge what you can get out of him. And as Mike says, if they can get something out of him this year, then it could be valuable for the 49ers. It could come back in other ways, such as comp picks. Brandon Aiyuk cooks everybody. I don't think that there's a defensive back who's played with the 49ers, to some extent over the past 2 years who hasn't gotten burned by Brandon Aiyuk. And even the guys who just started today, Isaiah Oliver. Yeah, Brandon Aiyuk is going to burn a lot of NFL cornerbacks. He is a stud. And Oliver is not an outside guy. So when Oliver's matched up with somebody like Brandon Aiyuk, it's because the 49ers have created a mismatch schematically. Oliver's a nickel back. He started his career with Atlanta playing on the outside, kicked inside, and he's found a home there. That's how the 49ers are going to use him. Samuel Womack, yes, he put on the number 0 jersey today. The NFL changed its rules of the offseason, allowing the number 0 to be worn by its players for the first time. And the first 49er in history, in their illustrious franchise history, to wear the number 0 is Samuel Womack III, the defensive back, very versatile DB, can play nickel, can play outside. I don't see the 49ers having any plans to slide Armstead over to defensive end. They're talking about him as a defensive tackle. He's been talking about himself as a defensive tackle. They love that athleticism working against guards. And let's be honest, they trust and believe in the edge rushers not named Nick Bosa on this football team. They picked up Cleveland Farrell. They believe in Drake Jackson. They picked up Austin Bryant. Robert Beal Jr. out of Georgia. At least one of those guys has to step up and deliver. If not, then there's something wrong with either how the 49ers have been evaluating the players or how they're developing them. But their track record on both fronts is good. And if it's good and it pans out, then you can have the luxury of keeping Eric Armstead inside next to Javon Hargrave. Chris Kocurek loves Eric Armstead at that defensive tackle position. Yes, fans seem to get restless. They want guys to move back and forth. If he's a defensive tackle, they want him at defensive end. If he's a defensive end, they want him at defensive tackle. Wherever Chris Kocurek thinks Eric Armstead is the best, and wherever Eric Armstead thinks Eric Armstead is the best, is probably going to be more correct than a lot of opinions on the internet. All right, we have hit 49 minutes. I think 49 minutes is the perfect length for these shows. Went 49 minutes last night, 49 minutes again today. Hope you enjoyed the 49ers Intel Report, trying to take you inside the workings of the football team. Subscribe right now. Hit that notification bell because there's going to be a lot more 49ers Intel Reports after every single day of practice. I'm at the facility every single day, so I think I can give you some of this inside information. Hit that sub button, hit the like button, put your comment down in that comment section. Subscribe to Matt's article. Subscribe to mine tomorrow. It's going to be on George Kittle, so be on the lookout on The Athletic in the morning. Everybody, thank you, and have a good night.